Every local electrical code can vary a little bit, so we do recommend that you do all of your research in regards to your local electrical code to see if this type of installation will work with your inspector and your permits. We also do recommend that all of this is done by a licensed electrician, whether or not it's required in your jurisdiction. This is our basic setup that we recommend when wiring in either a black gold or a gold heat panel or panels. Like a junction box down low, usually a minimum of a 2-gang standard depth, and then your box up above at whatever height you want your thermostat to be. In most jurisdictions, you're required to use conduit in between if it's unprotected, but consult your electrical code. We use the lower box for basically providing a spot where we can coil the excess cold lead. When you have this mat and you have the thermostat, if you have excess lead, you can't trim it off because it doesn't allow us to do diagnostics on the mat anymore if we don't know how much total wire is in the mat, and that includes the length of the cold lead. This also provides you a spot to coil up excess thermistor wire and other things, but on the thermistor wire you can trim it off shorter as needed. In your top junction box, you're going to have your power wire coming in from the breaker panel. In this case, it's 14.2, so we've got our hot and neutral and our ground. Each thermostat draws up to a max of 15 amps, so we recommend a minimum of 14 gauge wire. We've got our 2 leads for our temperature sensor or our thermistor in the floor. We've got our cold lead pulled up all the way from the floor up through the junction box where we have our hot, our neutral, and our tinned copper ground and our product tag. And this is where we'll be doing the bulk of our connection stuff. With our thermostat, we've got a screw here on the bottom, so you turn that a quarter turn, pull out on the bottom and lift up. That's how you remove your faceplate. And here you'll have your 2 small terminals here marked floor sensor. That's where your 2 little wires from your thermistor go. They are non-polar, so it doesn't matter which way they get wired in. If you're using a relay or for an expansion amount of amperage that you want to control off of this one single thermostat, those wires would go into your auxiliary 1, auxiliary 2. On the back, you have 4 terminals here. You've got 2 on the bottom marked line, with one of them marked for neutral. And then you'll have your load. The load is the resistive load of the heat mat or heat mats, and the line is your line voltage coming from your breaker panel. If you have multiple panels that are going to be controlled off of the same controller, as long as you're under that 15 amp limit, you can tie them in just directly at the panel, or you can do that down in your junction box below and then run a single piece of wire up to the top. So when we're connecting these, we'll start with our thermistor wire. So those go through these this little hole in the back and come up. And these guys go in the little terminals here. These are a screw clamp terminal, so you'll need a small screwdriver in order to loosen and tighten those terminals. Okay, with that done, we move to the back. We have our 4 terminals, which are all loosened in this case. For our line guys, we'll have our hot and our neutral. And hook them up. Get those guys. And when we have this here, we'll take care of our grounds, which we'll just tie together here. When we're doing a lot of stuff with our panels, we tend to use these Wago 221 lever connectors just because they're very convenient. They lock on well and they can be removed if needed. So the grounds are tied together, and then we've got our load side here. And it doesn't actually matter which way these 2 are connected as far as matching the white to black on the line side, because it's one single resistive loop. But you can keep them matched up side to side just to keep the questions later from being asked. Okay, once we've got those there, we'll then go ahead and get all of this put in our junction box. And this is a standard depth junction box. You cannot use a shallow depth box, or the back part of the relay will not fit. And then when you want to put your faceplate on, put it on the top, slide the bottom down, and then just turn that quarter turn from the locked to the unlocked position, and your thermostat portion's good to go. Then down in the junction box with whatever excess cold lead you'd have, you can coil that up and then put your cover plate over it.